Hello, my name is Morgan Martin. For our final project, I decided to write a children's book. This is geared towards children in the pre-operational stage, anywhere from 2 to 7. I would say this is probably geared more towards that preschool age, 3 to 6 maybe, just because of some of the concepts that I wrote about are a little simpler for that older stage, but probably a bit more complex than a 2-year-old might be able to start grasping. I believe that this book really brings in symbolic thinking as it applies to pretend play and essentially two ordinary animals, Daisy the golden doodle and Dandy the dachshund. And what I really focused on during this book is some of that grammar and syntax and really applying that intellectual reasoning to being able to understand the full sentencing and concept of it while also being able to apply that to a full storyline. And with this, I think a key is that there's a lot of imagination, intuition that's being applied. And while in that age, that pre-operational stage, that imagination is growing, even though thought processes are difficult or complex reasoning might be difficult. So this is a simple version of a book that they could start kind of gearing themselves towards some of that more complex reasoning. So with no further ado, the book I did is Daisy and Dandy on the Farm. As we go through, you'll notice I did that same texture for both of the dogs as we went, with the thought process that if this were an actual book, it could actually tie into some of those physical developmental goals by applying, say a actual fur in those spots as opposed to just a picture. So Daisy and Dandy on the farm. Meet Daisy. Meet Dandy. Daisy and Dandy are the best farm hands. They make sure the chickens are awake to lay their eggs. Together, they wrangle the horses to plow. They water the garden so the veggies will grow. They can't do it alone, though. They are the perfect pair. See, Dandy is too short, and Daisy cannot hear. Daisy gives Dandy a lift, and Dandy guides Daisy all day. At the end of their hard day, they cuddle up tight under Farmer Beck's quilt. So a couple of the things, as I kind of mentioned, there's a lot of opportunity here for textural feeling to develop some of that physical, intellectual, or physical cognitive growth and goals. Like I said, you could apply a fur or even like a rubber skin or feathers. That could really give them the opportunity to start feeling different textures to help with some of that physical relationships to what animals might look like. If you wanted to, you could develop this into a sound book where anytime if you focus more on animals, anytime you turn to a page, you could hear the sound of that animal. One of the reasons I liked it is it's based on pretend play. So these animals, children are working on the theory of learning what animals do, but applying some of that symbolic reasoning and pretend play allows them to kind of get a feel for working animals and the ability to apply unrealistic or abnormal concept structures to these animals who are farm dogs who work all day. This is a book that could be very colorful, engaging, and I'm sorry, I'm not completely an artist, but there's different ways that you could bring in different colors and textures with the quilt or with the vegetables. Even I tried to bring in lots of different colors and relatable items that these vegetables or that these children could recognize from vegetables. different coloring options for some of the animals as well. And I also recognize that's a chick or a rooster, not a chicken. That's what I had. But it can act as a series. In the way I designed it is that it could be a series. So Daisy and Dandy blank. Daisy and Dandy on the farm. Daisy and Dandy do downtown. They can develop different social relationships with how Daisy and Danny specifically interact with animals or with the neighbor dogs, or if a conflict arises, it could actually act as a learning basis for what to do in those situations. It can go into some deeper issues, like on a simple level, Farmer Beck gets sick, so they have to take over all the duties for the day, and then they recognize the emotions there and how that's a really difficult job, and they're really glad when Farmer Beck gets back on her feet. So I think it really gears towards those intellectual or cognitive developmental goals of being able to just apply concepts, not just the words, but the concept together into that relationship. And like I said, I think including textures or different opportunities allows for a more physical developmental goal. And I think that could help some of that lower end of the spectrum of pre-operational children in just gathering information in that discovery phase of learning, as it were. So I would suggest buying my book, Daisy and Dandy on the Farm. It's the first of a series, and check it out in stores near you this fall.